The idea of sex education being left up to schools and the government to dictate has been a controversial topic for a very long time. Traditionally in the US, it's been a private topic that is preferred to be taught in the home, but the issue with that is that then some students are left uneducated and never receive a sex education. In the US, it's often been seen as pushing boundaries when it's brought into the school education and seen as going against religious values of many, and for many, any sex education other than abstinence only is seen as endorsing sexual behaviors and risk-taking. But numerous studies have shown that abstinence-only education actually leads to higher rates of teen pregnancies and STDs. It leads to more harmful behaviors than not. According to the Journal of Family and Marriage, adolescents who received an abstinence-only sex education were less likely to use contraception when they chose to be sexually active. And most of the students who chose to make pledges to abstain until marriage broke those pledges before marriage. So it doesn't seem to be a realistic way to teach sex education to our youth. An alternative to abstinence-only education is comprehensive sex education, and I think that that's a way that students could be taught in a healthy manner. I feel that I didn't receive an effective sex education, and both by my school system as well as my guardians who held strong religious beliefs. And I think that I was taught abstinence-only sex education by the school, just like many other students are, and it left me uneducated and not knowledgeable on the topic like many other students are. So I've researched this topic very deeply myself, and I would like to share the research that I found, and in hopes that it will persuade and help you understand that comprehensive sex education is a better alternative than abstinence only. Comprehensive sex education has been found to be more effective. It lowers pregnancy rates and STD rates, and it prevents sex abuse and promotes healthy relationships. So first, let's take a look at the disappointing data displaying the truth about abstinence-only education and why it has been ineffective. The problem with abstinence-only education is that it is withholding essential information for the students on how to make decisions when they don't choose to abstain. So let's tell a story, a hypothetical story about a girl named Rachel. She's a 16-year-old teenager who didn't receive a very good education from school because her parents chose to opt her out of her education because of their religious beliefs. And she also didn't receive any type of education besides to abstain at her home as well. And so because of her lack of education and no knowledge on contraception, she found herself pregnant at 16 years old and found herself with a huge decision to make with no education to put behind that. And although this is a hypothetical situation, it's the situation of many students, and in higher rates of students in states that teach abstinence only. Department of Nursing said that only 13 states are required to have medically accurate information in their sex education program. And this leaves a lot up to the interpretation of the teacher and of the students that partake in the program. The Journal of Adolescent Health found that students who received a comprehensive sex education felt more empowered and more able to make safer choices with healthier outcomes when they received this education. I think that schools should require sex education at the very least, regardless of what type it is. The Department of Nursing found that the US has higher rates of teen pregnancy and STD rates than most industrialized countries. And this is because a lot of our states require a stress and abstinence only education in their sex education programs, and most don't require any education on important topics like sexual orientation and contraception, and consent. And a few of them actually require a negative view to be taught on sexual orientation. So I think how we can solve it is by teaching comprehensive sex education. I propose that all schools should have mandatory sex education, and that type should be comprehensive sex education. And by supporting it, there will be a reduction in STDs and risky sexual behaviors and in teen pregnancies. So comprehensive sex education is a rights-based approach to sex education, and it equips students with like knowledge and skills and confidence they need to make healthy and safe decisions by teaching them all the options that they have unbiasedly. ACLU shared ideas on how to support comprehensive sex education. You can organize support in your community through the schools and healthcare professionals. You can report programs that are violating sex education laws. You can vote for and support legislators and school educators who are pushing for us to have comprehensive sex education. The states that implemented sex education found success and a decrease in STDs and teen pregnancies. The Journal of Adolescent Health published an article that put together data from the last 3 decades of states who have found success in comprehensive sex education. So it has supporting evidence for comprehensive sex education. And these results come from comprehensive sex education addressing our sexual health, and having like a positive, inclusive approach to our human sexuality so that students feel free to ask any questions that they have. I think that comprehensive sex education would benefit our society in the future in many ways. And according to Columbia's Socio-Medical Sciences, they found that it prevents sexual abuse for many children because it helps educate children on their bodily autonomy and make healthy decisions, and it helps them to recognize what is appropriate and inappropriate in a relationship and gives them knowledge and skills to know what to do in an inappropriate situation. For many of us that were taught abstinence-only sex education, we were taught that when you choose to not abstain, we're like chewed gum and there's no way to be healthy. But this comes from an unhealthy culture that has now been found to be ineffective and has evidence supporting that. It may be hard to change, but it's worth not sacrificing our youth's mental and physical health to do so. The National Library of Medicine supports comprehensive sex education and the benefits that it's provided for the states that have found success in it. Right now, states dictate the amount of sex education that students receive and the type of sex education that they receive. And it's up to the states to prioritize which subjects come first and along with that one. So it's often put on the back burner. Only 2 states are requiring their sex education that religion not be promoted in their sex education program. So while it may seem like there's still a long way to go, simply voting for and supporting legislators and educators is a huge step. So it may seem that like abstinence only is a simpler solution, but it's been found to be ineffective. It may seem that comprehensive sex education is a big change, but it's found to be effective. And it may seem that mandatory sex education is an intense step, but it's essential for our youth's physical and mental health. So by supporting change in our small communities and all working together, it'll make a big change overall. So after reviewing, you may wonder if this is worth changing overall, but I say imagine a society that allows youth to continue to be miseducated or uneducated, and parents are allowed to withdraw them from vital education that's essential to their health, and states can dictate what students learn based on their own values and beliefs, even if it's not the values of the whole state. So what would happen if all students were educated healthily? Well, imagine students that come out of school understanding how to have healthy relationships and understand consent and bodily autonomy, and how to have healthy communication, and understand how to use contraception and how to prevent STDs, and less teen pregnancies will equal less abortions. I think that states should have it be mandatory and require medically accurate information and require that it be unbiased from religion. So although these are hypothetical, the lack of sex education in our country is pretty serious, and I think that in conclusion, supporting comprehensive sex education is really worth it because it's found to be more effective. It reduces teen pregnancy and STD rates. It prevents sexual abuse in children, and it promotes healthy relationships. So it's successful in the long run. I think it's important just to take small steps, and today you can support comprehensive sex education and help create a society that's more healthy physically and mentally for our youth.